Sonny, take it away.
Hello, guys. My name is Sunny Gooseland, and I watched the Clockwork Orange. And there's a few starring people, and there was a lot of actors in this. And the first one is Malcolm McDowell. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it.
It's pronounced the same way as McDowell County. McDowell.
And then there's Patrick Magee. Not sure if I'm saying that right either. And Adrian. Would that be Adriana or Adrian?
Adrian.
Yeah, Corey and Moran, Carlin,
Miriam.
Okay. And you have also saw these in the Halloween movie, which is Malcolm McDowell, Easy A, and Home Alone. And Patrick has been in the Tales from the Crypt, Asylum, and the Deep Blue Sea. The Sleep of Death. And Adrian acted in the movie of The Telltale of Hearts and Cry Wolf and Madhouse. Moran, I'm not exactly sure. Sorry.
Miriam
also played in Alice in Wonderland, Incognito, and The Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah, you guys, if you've seen Malcolm McDowell before, you've probably seen older Malcolm McDowell. He played in as Sonny just said, he played in the Rob Zombie Halloween remake. He was the doctor in it. So if you notice that voice sounding familiar, that's where he's from. If any of you guys have ever played the Fallout video games, I don't know if any of you guys have ever played the Fallout video games, but he's also well known for being the president of the United States in Fallout 3, the video game. So am I talking aloud here, or have any of you guys played those? Probably you might know him from that.
My son plays them.
Yeah, great games. But his voice is in that too. So
These are just, sorry.
No, you go ahead, son.
These are just some concepts that I thought that would be great to discuss in here today. About the man versus the government, good versus evil, and human nature. Does anybody have any questions or what they would like to say on those?
Yeah, so you're pointing us to some good themes here. Human nature, good versus evil within all of us. Like, you guys might, did any of you guys wonder why the hell did he classify this movie as science fiction? Did any of you guys wonder that as you were watching this?
I did at first, but then I thought that because it was a dystopian society and it had mind control, maybe that's why it was sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that the whole therapy for curing evil that the movie poses, that's where we get the science fiction element. But this movie is very disturbing. Like I probably haven't watched this movie since I was an undergrad myself. Yeah. Sonny Stewart says this is the weirdest movie I've ever watched. Sonny, I don't know if it topped out Mulholland Drive, right?
Oh, I say it did. Almost. I didn't like it.
Yes.
Mulholland won for me. This one I kind of see a little bit of a storyline. Mulholland, no.
right? But it is a deeply disturbing and upsetting movie to watch. Like, of course, we have movies all about violence in all forms, right? Not just physical violence, but mental violence, sexual violence, right? This movie is up front and in your face about violence, right? And it kind of makes you question the assumptions that we have about violence, right? Think about some of the movies we've watched in this class already with Westerns, with noir, like in all the violence within those films. This movie is kind of calling all that out, if that makes sense. So I don't know if any of the rest of you guys want to share a thought there, but that's in a nutshell what this movie is all about: is violence and the choice between good and evil. This is a very much a philosophical, even a religious movie in a way, right? Because we have the priest in the movie who's saying, "Hey, this new therapy that you're doing, it takes away your freedom to choose." Right, whether you want to be good or evil, whether you want to go towards a God or go against God. So
I really thought.
Go ahead,
sorry. I really liked how the priest said that, because usually if you have a priest or something, they're all about like trying to change everything. Even as a person, as a Christian like myself, all it is about change, and kind of like how, yes, God gave you a choice, but they're always trying to like bash into you, like, you don't really have a choice, you need to do this or whatever. And I liked how he was actually like, this is pretty messed up. We need to give him a choice here.
Right, yeah, his impulse is to go towards violence. Like when that guy moves in with his parents, right? He wants to slug that guy, but then he gets the violent, the sickness, right? Roger, go ahead, Jessica. No, go ahead, Jessica.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know. I was looking at some stuff on this movie, and I found out it was based on a book. Mm-hmm. And the guy that wrote the book was in the CIA, and like was in a division that like also like worked with like mind stuff. And like the last chapter of the book also was like, he was like, it was just part of growing up. Well, you don't see that in the movie, but like, in the last chapter of the book that's not in the movie, he was saying, oh, the boy was just going through a phase. It was pretty much like he was going through a phase, and that it was a normal phase to be all this violence and all that, when it really wasn't. But I found the CIA thing, like, it makes you wonder if they really did try to attempt this at some time, like cognitively getting people better by doing stuff like this. Makes you wonder what he actually worked in the CIA and wrote the book.
I never knew that, Jessica, and I was thinking about that entire time. Like, this seems like something the government would do, because if you really think about art, especially, I hate to say this, but our U.S. government, where he poisons us with our food and everything else, and tries to make you weaker and stuff, just make you easily, I can't pronounce it, easier to control, so I'm just gonna say it that way. But I really thought that was interesting, how they were trying to control you, because that really seems like something maybe not just our government, like everywhere around the world tries to does. They isolate you. It makes you think about things. I was like, this seems like something that really would happen.
Aline, you want to talk about your thoughts on the movie? I just saw where you typed in the box.
Oh my God, it was just hard to handle that movie, especially the violence with sex. Right. It drove me crazy. I was like, oh my God, I can't watch this. And I would bend my head down a few times during it. And then when it'd get off, I would try to watch it again. And I kept trying to find myself trying to get away from the movie a little bit. So it was pretty disturbing for me. So it was really hard to watch.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, Aline. I think it's an important movie to watch um, for its themes, but that definitely doesn't mean the themes aren't hard to digest.
I thought it was disturbing, to watch. Also, it definitely beat Mulholland Drive for me. Like this one was like way out there for me, but uh, like the good versus evil. I forget like the one part that there was just like so many things. It was like he had these impulses like with his friends. It was almost like when he was the one that was not in complete control, then he was trying to like overpower them, or like when he pushed them like into the water and stuff. And um I think then he even cut that one guy, but he was trying to do like so many things. And then it was like, just to show when they were sitting back at the table, but it was like he wanted to be in complete control, but he would have these impulses because it would show just like I guess it would the screen would just kind of like click off to like either something like really bad, or like maybe like what in his mind, like what he was thinking, and it was just like either like a really bad accident, or like a it would just like quickly like flashes of different things like that. And when those two girls, I think they had like popsicles or something that they had like in there, and it was like that immediately, like for that scene, it was like that immediately triggered something sexual for him. And then that, and it just led to, but there was just, I don't know, so many different scenes like with the violence, but it was like he could not control the impulses that he had. And then with the government, but yeah, it was definitely disturbing.
Yeah, this movie was made in 1971. So I think it was 71. But yeah, just think about how innovative this movie was for even that time period. I think it was originally rated X. Of course, whenever you talk about movie ratings, you have, of course, G, PG, R. They didn't have PG-13 back then. And then X is the obscene rating, where you can only have someone 18 or older go in and see it. So yeah, I do know this movie was originally rated X. They recut it to where it was rated R. I think it's rated R now by today's standards. But back then it was seen as obscene, even almost like pornographic. So
yeah, honestly, I'll be honest. I had many thoughts about who directed this. I was like, oh my God, what insane guy directed this movie? I mean, God, what's wrong with them?
Sonny, do you have anything on the director here?
Not right off the top of my head. I didn't really put things in here about him, really. I just put like fun facts and stuff.
Okay, so the director of this movie is, we're gonna watch another movie of his later in the class, but the director of this movie is one of the most iconic directors ever. Like we talked about Alfred Hitchcock earlier in the class with Vertigo. This movie is directed by Stanley Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick is our director. So you might know him from The Shining. He directed The Shining with Jack Nicholson. He directed Full Metal Jacket, one of the great Vietnam films. If you've ever seen the Vietnam film with the drill sergeant, like grilling the cadets, that's the one. He directed 2000, well, probably the most iconic science fiction movie ever, 2001: The Space Odyssey. That movie is rated G, I think. And he directed a movie called Lolita, which is about an older man falling for his stepdaughter. So basically every movie this guy made became a classic in some way, shape, or fashion. Did I just name any titles that you guys have seen?
I don't think
Yes.
I've heard. What was the one that you said about the drill sergeant? The other ones I don't think I've heard.
The drill sergeant movie is called Full Metal Jacket.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, I've seen that one, but I don't think I've seen any of the other ones.
Did you say he directed The Shining?
He did, yeah.
He did an amazing job on that. That's one of the only films I've probably watched of his other than this one.
Yeah, of course. Of course, with The Shining, that movie is famous for being very different from the book. Like Stephen King actually hates The Shining movie because Kubrick turned it from a supernatural ghost tale to more of like a psychological thriller. And Stephen King famously hates Kubrick's version of The Shining. Yeah, my opinion is it's better than the book, but most people do think that. But some of the rest of you guys horror buffs in here seen The Shining?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times.
Mm.
Will say this about Stephen King. Most of his books, unless you like really wordy authors, you won't like them. So typically, his movies are better in that sense, just because they're easier to digest and get the whole story without having be like, okay, getting lost in the scenery.
Yeah, I've always said of Stephen King that he's a good template. He's a good template man. Like he'll give you the template and then go in and clean it up and make it better for a movie. That's what I've always said about him. But yeah, so some things to know about Kubrick. Kubrick is very well known for his cinematography. Like I don't know if you guys paid attention. I don't know if you guys were probably also shocked with the content of the film to pay much attention to the camera work and the editing and all that stuff. But he's known for being meticulous. This guy was meticulous with every single shot he has in these films. He's known especially for like showing like these long hallways and things like that, and then the characters will sort of like come into the frame. He's very well known for his bright colors in his movies. And it's going to be interesting because later in the class, we're going to watch a movie of his that's in black and white. But he's very much well known for his bright colors. Did any of you guys know, like my Atlanta Braves hoodie here, that he's like this sort of like bright red, and like there's lots of like bright oranges and bright greens and all of that in this movie. Did any of you guys?
I noticed. Yeah, I really noticed the bright colors because, like, in their house, for one, the mom, like, I think her hair was like a crazy color purple, and like she wore that really bright red dress, and like even like the wallpaper, the bedding, the sheets, especially in his bedroom, like was really, bright colors and colorful. Well, and even when the movie was going off, it showed like every single screen, like when it showed the director and the cast and like all the names, like it was blue, then it was purple, then it was red, then it was like it went through all these colors. But I noticed like with the older man that was homeless, like at the beginning and then towards the end, it showed like a long like where they were outdoor, like in the tunnel, like or going under a bridge, how it kind of looked like under a tunnel. But a lot of his shots also looked like they were just like I don't know, it was just like they were crisp, like they were real, like you know what I mean, like interchanged, like really crisp and like clear looking. They didn't like kind of like fade slowly into anything. They were just like really crisp, clear shots, I thought too.
To go off what Stacy said, if you would like focus on like Alex's face, especially, he made sure to bring out like the coldness of the blue eyes, like the crispness of his like close-ups was insane. Like I was like, okay. But like it made me think about like Thomas Shelby, like his iconic pale blue eyes, and how there's a dark meaning behind it just with that. Just because you can see just dimness and like that evil, especially towards the beginning. And as the movie went on, it kind of like thinned out, like became less apparent, which I found really cool.
When you mentioned The Shining, I was like, it hit me. And then you said the hallways in this movie, and it's like, I was like, oh, I could see him directing The Shining. And then when you said the hallways, it was like, yes, that's why it seems like his movie. And then also when it shows the house that he, like when he's in the rain and he's like going to that house, when he's actually got beat up by the cops, and the home sign, that just reminds me of, I think, another movie. I don't know. I've seen that, like, I don't know, that especially like with the home lit up and stuff like that. It stuck out to me.
Yeah, remember in The Shining, remember the kid like getting on his big wheel and going through those long hallways. Yeah.
Yeah, the set design in this movie was pretty crazy. Like all the vibrant bright colors and unique imagery, I guess I'll use as the term for it. It was all pretty fascinating.
I want to question my brother, because my brother's watched this movie and he went for Halloween as that guy with the eyelashes. I think he was his name, the main character once. And I never knew who he was. And I've watched this movie now and I'm just like sitting here thinking, I'm like, why, John? Why?
Is my brother a sick sadist? Right? It's making you question things now, Jessica.
Yep, is he a sociopath?
Yeah. Stacy, did you want to say something a second ago?
I was just going to kind of add to like what Jaden was talking about too, like the look on his face. It would make you really uncomfortable, or I know it did me. Like when it would show a part that would show like a close up of his face or even of his eyes, when he would say something, and the houses that he would go into, you know, the one lady's house. Like I mean, all the pictures on the wall, even on his wall, like there was so many, you know, just like even the shapes, like you know, there was just like the colors and the shapes. But another thing too, like the music was something that I noticed, you know, just from watching it last night, even as disturbing, you know, and like uncomfortable as it would make me, like some of the music and stuff, because it was like he really enjoyed like listening to all that music. But there was, I don't know, there was parts like after he got out of jail, like I felt like really bad for him, because I guess where he would get so sick and he was trying to, you know, say, okay, I don't want to do, you know, but then I would feel like really bad for him, like when his old friends, like when they got him and they were trying to I mean like almost like, you know, I guess like drown him, and they were, you know, hitting him in different things. And then when he goes to his house, to his parents, and you know, and the way that they were with him, I don't know, like towards the end I kind of felt really bad for him. And then it's like the government had control, and he was talking about the nasty dream, like he was trying to tell the one lady that came in there, was asking him about those pictures, and it was almost like he was just so like clueless at the same time of like what, you know, was going on, because I guess he was being controlled. And so I kind of ended up feeling bad for him.
Which says something here for his character arc, right? Because he is so despicable at the beginning of the movie, right? So to then turn around and feel something for him close to the end, right?
Yeah, like I thought, like at the very beginning, because he would try to, like when he would go like to the houses, and he would try to, I mean, even the scene where they were in the car, like, and the car was like driving so fast, like running people off the road, and I mean, you know, he was just like flying, and then they make it to that one house, and you know, he's just trying to come up with this, you know, this crazy scary story, just to anything to get into the house. And then the same thing with the other, you know, lady, he kept trying to come up with, you know, just these stories. And he was this, I mean, just like terrible, like, you know. And then once he would get in and the things he would say, but it was almost like he had no, you know, no remorse for anything that he was doing. And so then he goes to jail and he's there for all that time. And they do all that stuff. It was very uncomfortable, like when he, like at the part where they did have him, you know, kind of like strapped in the chair, and they were like forcefully putting the things in his eyes to make him stay open. I mean, that part was like super uncomfortable for me. But you know, and then to see like how sick it would make him, and then later on, like after he got out of jail, I don't know, like I kind of it just I kind of felt bad for him. Like he goes to the house and he wanted so bad, like to, like you said earlier, like to hit that one guy that was there, but then he didn't because he, you know, started getting sick and, you know, just all these things. But by the end, like even though it was really uncomfortable, I still kind of felt bad for him.
For what did you guys think of the guy at the wheelchair at the end? Were you guys like, yeah, get him? Right.
I definitely was. I definitely.
Yeah.
I like how we locked him in the room and made him just stay there and with the music playing.
I feel bad for the guy in the wheelchair because the government got him at the end, and just trying to think what they probably are doing to him. Because I think he did need some justice, like the, you know, because of his wife and stuff, and he did need that retaliation and stuff like that. And I did feel bad for the main character, but I seen the wheelchair guy's point. He needed that retaliation, but then when he's in the hospital and that guy's like, we caught him and he's in a state-run facility or something like that, I kind of felt bad because I was like, I bet they're doing the same thing to that old man that they did to him.
He should have knew to not drink that wine because they was not taking a drink of it. So he was the only one drinking that cup of wine. And then he just went straight up, just pass out.
Yeah, oldest trick in the book, right? Yeah. Make sure you're drinking the same thing I am, right?
For real.
Back in the day, the old kings used to have someone taste the food before them just to make sure they weren't getting poisoned. So,
Would you like me to go to the next slide?
sure, Sonny. Yeah, we had a good chat there of some of the themes.
Well, here's just the questions that I had. Would you like me to skip this, or would we like to talk about it?
No, we can go question by question here. Good, better with the questions, by the way, Sonny. We ironed them out last night pretty good.
Yeah, sorry for that. I didn't mean to. I didn't know. I thought I could just choose any question that I like, so I didn't know I had to go in details.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't presented yet, Sonny and I were chatting about this last night. Just a tip. Make sure when you do your presentations, your discussion questions are open-ended discussion questions. Like you don't want to ask something that has a right or wrong answer, if that makes sense. So make sure your questions are all fairly open-ended to where we can have a discussion off of them, right? If you're like, what happened in the movie right here, right? That's a question of the plot. Right, so we're not testing right or wrong or anything like that. We're discussing. So just the tip for those of you who haven't gone yet. Some of you who have presented already have done very well with that. So, but Sonny's first question here is about the setting. Of course, this takes place in England. So we have like the hardcore Cockney accents and stuff. One of my favorite characters in the movie is the security guard in the prison, right? He's like the most British man ever, right? I was cracking up at him the whole time with his mannerisms and such. But could you set this movie in a different time, maybe the US today, or maybe set it further into the future? How much is setting an important part of the movie, as Sonny asks here?
Honestly, I think you can place this movie in modern times here in the United States, especially after this whole incident that we're going through now. Just because that mind control thing, once again, everyone's on edge. It just kind of makes sense that we're trying to like reform, but not really reform, but just wire everyone different. I will say this: the accents and everything else, I did have to like Google a lot of words today.
Yeah, some of the words I was lost on too, Jaden. I just kind of rolled with it as I was watching it.
I probably stopped about 15 times within the first 20 minutes. Like, I don't know what he's saying. I'm just going to Google this and hope for the best.
Did you guys see where the language was made up in the books? Because I Googled it and it was like, I Googled Clockwork Orange and he made up that language, but he based it on a type of slang that they actually use in Britain. It's called where they like rhyme the word with like a common phrase. I thought that was interesting that he took like an actual slang from Britain, but then put his own twist on it and made it like his own language for the movie and books.
I thought it was just really bad Shakespeare language.
Yeah, that makes sense, Jessica, because some of the words sounded kind of gibberish to me.
Once again, why I thought it was like really bad Shakespeare.
If you really want to know, there's a dictionary with all the words telling you what they mean in the made-up language.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have bought it was real.
What'd you just say, Matt?
I said, I don't know. I could have bought that it was real.
The immersion factor sold it for you.
I didn't know it was a fake language either. I thought it was just how they spoke.
But yeah, think about all the violence in our media today. Like this movie was made in 1971. This movie is pretty hardcore for then, but there's a lot more violent stuff than this in the cinemas today. So think about that. Think about the prevalence of the pornography industry. Like with back then, right, pornography was something you got in a magazine. Now it's something you get very easily online. So like when the character, when he has to watch that in a movie, like we've almost became extremely desensitized to that today. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have a thought on that, but yeah, to me, it seems like it would be harder to do this just because we've become so desensitized to it. Like one reason why this movie is disturbing is because it's taboo, but now we've become so desensitized to it that would it have the same effect? Would this type of therapy have the same effect today?
I agree with this, like how it is today. Like, cause I'll go through Twitter just because I see something on TikTok. It's like, do not click this link, and I click it, and I see a man beheaded. I'm like, oh, that happened. Yeah, it's happened more than one occasion. Let's just say that. I don't learn my lesson. But yeah, you can find some really, really cruel stuff on the internet. Even just simply just scrolling down your Facebook feed. It's not easy. It's not hard to like find the most disturbing things by not even looking for it. Back then, you actually kind of had to look for stuff.
I agree. It's like there's no fear or, people can do things and they don't have any, conscience about it. They don't have any regret about it. They're not worried about, if there's even any issues or if there's going to be anything, like to go on. So I think, like TikTok and social medias, people are so quick to like make videos and post videos and do different things like that. And I mean, even kids nowadays, like in school, I know my oldest is 13. He's in middle school. He's in 8th grade. And he tells me, like about some things, that kids just know nowadays. But then one thing that really shocks me is my youngest is in 3rd grade, and he hears pretty close to just as much as like my 13-year-old. And it's like I don't think that there would be because like you said, it was taboo, years ago, and it was like, oh, we can't talk about that, or we shouldn't say that. Nowadays, it's almost like people deliberately do that. There is no filter. There's no filter on things. There's no fear for anything. People want to do what they want to do. And it's, so I don't think if it was this kind of movie, I do see this kind of movie coming out like now, just because it's the kind of things that, like, that people would watch or something like that. But I don't think that it would get, I guess, like the shock filter that maybe it got back in the 70s. Like I can see it coming out now because it's like, the violence or the sexual content, the language, different things like that. I can see it just because that stuff, I guess, is so natural to happen. But I don't see it being such a shock to everybody like it would have been in the 70s.
Just saying, the director clearly knew what he was doing, because even though we are desensitized to everything, that movie to us is still so off the wall insane that it bothers us and so disturbing even years later, even though we're desensitized to most of this stuff. I just props to him. He knew what he was doing.
I agree, but I see it not as a modern time film. I do see it as a future, but I see it as a near future. Like she said, with our kids, with my son in school, especially sexual stuff is becoming so desensitized nowadays, and kids are being exposed to stuff they should not be exposed at a lot earlier ages. And because our society deems that it's okay to let kids be exposed to this kind of stuff, I can see this kind of scenario happening, not quite right now, but with the hypersexualization. But in the future, I could see this happening, because the more you introduce the kids and let them see this, the more they become desensitized to it, and the more that they see that it's okay. So I could see in a few years kids running wild and stuff like that and not giving a care, and this hypersexualization everywhere. So I don't think it's a modern movie, but I could see it happening in the near future and being like a movie in the near future, with the themes in it and stuff like that.
I feel like we've already done this to somebody somewhere, and like they probably haven't put it public out yet, but I feel like we've actually done this type of experiment before, somewhere in a jail or in a hospital or somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know about like using media to sicken you to violence or something like that, but I do know that this type of thing, especially with like keeping someone's eyes open and making them watch something, like that is a form of torture that's used.
This kind of reminds me of the Waco incident, like how they would do like the sounds just to torture them. Kind of reminds me of how Alex was so terrified of that one song by Beethoven, because they were trying to like pressure you and make you go crazy. So we have done this form of mind control, just not to that extent.
Oboe Dog Experiment. They took children, and I forget what year it was. I don't know if it was 60s, 70s, or when it was, but they had children watch movies, videos of someone interacting with the Bobo doll, like one of those dolls you punch and it falls down and comes back up. And what they found, that the kids would mimic the actions in the movies. Someone go, and they had the room for toys, so that the kids that didn't watch the video would just walk around and play with everything, and may or may not, may push the doll, whatever. But the kids that seen the videos of people shooting at the Bobo doll, doing certain actions to the Bobo doll, they mimic that behavior. So if you make someone watch something long enough, they figured out that the person would mimic that behavior. So I think if they kind of could have used that for mind control, making somebody watch something enough to make them mimic it. I don't know if it would make them good, or if they could make somebody like be desensitized. Like, I could see them doing it to a soldier to make them desensitized to like warfare or something like that. And that, we do know that they've done it in torture and stuff, making people watch stuff. So I can see this happening.
This is a good chance to segue over into question 2. Despite the government's methods, Sonny asks, is the government and police in the right during the movie? If not, why? So should we stop criminal behavior at any cost, even the cost of maybe depriving the person of their free will? What do you guys think of the idea this movie poses about, can we purge criminality?
If we could, we should.
I could see why it'd be a good idea, especially for like child rapists and stuff. That'd be an amazing idea. But still, like, you can saw towards the end, he was still having those violent thoughts. Those thoughts are not ending. And they can always kind of push through the sickness. So there's no true cure. So why not give them the choice and hope for the better? Unless it's like some crazy case like Gacy or Dahmer, I don't see them going to that extent.
Jessica, I heard you say yes.
Yeah, I mean, like what you said with children and stuff, like people that prey on children and stuff. I do think, I know they could probably, the boy still had the thoughts, he just couldn't act on them. But I do think somebody that is known as like a serial rapist or something like that, I think this would be a good therapy for them to try to rehabilitate them, to get them to the point that, just the thought of doing these acts makes them physically sick. I think it would protect a lot more people instead of having like, I'm not talking about just like somebody, just like a one time, which I think one time offender should, but I'm talking about like, if somebody is getting ready to, they did a crime, because nowadays people don't get no time for nothing. I mean, you kill somebody, it's only 5 years half the time. If it's considered unintentional, and if somebody does something to a child, I've seen people only get 5-10 years. But I do think they should rehabilitate them, especially if they think they may reoffend, in a sense, to prevent them to coming out here and doing it again. Because I mean, maybe I'm being biased. My grandmother was murdered, and the person that murdered her was out of prison for murder. He went to jail for murder, got with somebody, killed my grandmother with this other woman. The woman got 5 years, he only got 10 years, and it was his second time killing somebody. So I really do think that there should be some kind of rehabilitation, because we are putting these criminals back on the streets, and I do think they should rehabilitate them sometime. And even if they still have the thoughts, they're not going to act on them.
See, I agree with you. There should be a more punishable offense to especially those crimes. But in the state of Florida, I think it's one of the few states that actually still allow it. Chemical castration still a thing, especially like for child rapists. Here's the thing though. They can still act upon those things. They're going to be in more pain and everything else. But if you truly want to do that, you will fight through any sickness you may feel. So I really don't think this treatment would even help, because if they're that far gone that would they even need to consider that treatment, they're going to do anything in their power to continue doing so.
One thing that I thought was odd, this probably ain't to this question yet, it's probably to the next question, but in the beginning, he walks in, him and his friends walk into this building, I think it's a church or something, and this girl's getting raped by these other dudes, and him and his buddies actually help her like get away, and they fight him and everything. But if he wants to do it, that's fine. And as he was watching the videos, as he wasn't doing it, that's why I feel like he was like, ew, that's gross, like I don't want to do that, because he sees someone else doing it other than himself. I thought that was just odd.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, Sonny. He doesn't think when he does it himself, but seeing other people do it, it starts to wear on him a bit. Aline?
Oh, you want to hear my thoughts on this subject?
I saw you unmute, so I figured you was ready.
Well, I would hate to be the one that has to be like somebody that would punish people, because I would be really bad about it. I would like torture them the way they tortured others, or something like that. And not in a bad way, I guess, like tie them to a tree, put cuts on them or something, and let bees and stuff pour honey on them and let bees and stuff attack them, because I'm a punishable kind of person, man. I'm tough on my kids, I'm like, you're not going to do that. My kids will never do drugs. Trust me, they won't. I mean, I'm a tough mom, and my kids are really good kids, and I'm proud of that fact. But I just don't believe in bad things. I can't even stand a thief, So I'd hate to be the one to punish people, because if I was in that kind of thing, I would be a perjurer. I really would. I can't handle violence or bad people. So yeah, they'd get in real serious trouble with me.
You're all about the Leviticus kind of justice over there, Aline.
Oh yeah, I would be the evil kind of justice. Yes, I mean, I believe in full punishment for something bad. I really do.
Stacy, I'm curious to hear what you got to say, because you're going to be a counselor, or you do counseling work. What do you think about all this?
I don't know. I mean, I can see, because I don't know, I guess because I don't know, like I did start to feel bad for him, like at the beginning or at the end of the movie, like he did all these bad things, but I think I'm more of like, I don't know, I kind of have like, I guess like an empath kind of, kind of character, because I mean, I will feel bad for people, like with him, because in my mind, like I know it was a movie, but I would keep thinking, like what kind of led him to that point? Like, it would kind of, I don't know, like I would just kind of wonder, like, the relationship with like his mom and dad, or I would kind of like, try to look at things like that and be like, I wonder, like if this happened, or, and I know like, and I completely agree, like if there's, like anything, like for, rapists with kids and things like that, I don't think, I mean, I just don't know if I would be the kind of person that could be, I guess, somebody that could actually, perform the violence like on somebody. Like I may be like, yeah, if it was a rapist or somebody that molested kids, like things like that. I mean, for me, there's no, I guess, backing down from, of course, anything to do with like violence with the kids and stuff, or, anybody really. But I also like, I try to look at like both sides, and I try to look at like, okay, like if this is going on with this person, at what point, did they get here? Like what has caused them to get here? And I kind of look at that, because I kind of wondered, like the way that he was with his mom, like when she just kind of came to the door, it's almost like that they seemed like really distant with him. And, she came to the door and she was like knocking on his door and stuff, but I don't know, like I think that there should be, like punishment and stuff, but at the same time, I can see both sides of the fence, because even, like on the other side, there's, like there's people that take the position of like cops and authority and stuff that are in it for the wrong reasons. Like I have seen, and heard about certain things that's happened, and they just push their weight around just because they have that title. And I don't agree with that either. And obviously in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to worry about that. But, there is violence, and there's more and more violence, and, people have, less filter and less fear of getting in trouble, or what would happen to them if they did. But I think I really do think that there's almost two sides to it, because, sometimes the cops or sometimes the people, like the government in this instance, or, I mean, they have different agendas, and it's not always for the good and for the better of the person. Sometimes it's more beneficial to themselves and what, that's going to make for them. And I think that's kind of like a little bit of what was going on here, like with the police and the government. Like that one police officer, he was funny, like watching him, how he would try to be so authoritative, and he would like try to like stomp his foot every time he would go in somewhere. Like that was funny, like every time he would do that. And he wanted him to call him sir and things. And I thought, like things like that. But then the government just trying to do it to a certain point where it would completely control him and what he was doing. Because I do think that we do have, I think we have our own free will, and I think doing it to the point like I don't know if it was Jaden or who said it, but even doing this kind of treatment on somebody, and if they want to push far enough past like the sickness or like whatever it is, because there was like one of the ladies that comes to my center, she was talking to me about her husband, and I don't know the name of the medication or anything. Not her husband, I'm sorry, her son. But they gave him some kind of medicine because he was on drugs, and they were trying to get him off of drugs. So they would give him some kind of medicine, and every time he would like, I guess, either try to do those drugs, it would make him like severely sick. And but she was telling me that he would just, I guess, keep doing it a little here and a little there until I guess he pushed past that far enough, because the desire and the urge to do that was still there. So I don't know. I mean, I could, but absolutely, I think, if somebody's doing a punishment, I mean, I think that they should be held accountable. I think that they should have consequences for their actions. I really think that that's a lot of what's wrong with society now, especially like with younger kids. They don't have any consequences. I mean, they can go and do whatever, and it's like, well, mom and dad will bail me out. They'll take care of it. I won't be in trouble. So I do think, and that just creates, just turmoil, and that just keeps festering until they get older, and then they're old enough to suffer consequences, but they don't know how to even cope with that. So then they result to different things. So I think there should be consequences, absolutely, for actions and violence and things like that. But I also think that there's it's not always, I guess, accountability the way that you think it should be.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with you there, Stacy. Like the consequences of bad behaviors and stuff like that with children aren't quite what they used to be.
Well, I've always said this. I always said that kids between the ages of 12 and 18 should have to go to like a military school just to be disciplined better if the parents can't do it right, And I was like, I think where my son's in the Army now, he's 24 now. And he's been in the Army about 4 years. He used to be a wild child a little bit, and he's fearless and all this. And that was probably why I knew he was going to end up in the Army. But he was always my kid I had to worry the most about, because he was very fearless. He didn't care to do crazy stuff. If somebody dared my child to jump off a roof, he would do it. And I'm like, don't you ever do something like that. That's how fearless he was. And he always done the most goofiest crap. He was like the class clown, and I always got a phone call like every other day from the school saying, oh, Chris was turning cartwheels in the lunch line at 3 or 4 or at 6 years old, And I'm like, why would you do that? My friends told me to. And I'm like, oh my God, kid, And I'm like, kid, I'm going to have to end up sending you somewhere to where they can discipline you better than me, apparently, because you are just too fearless. You don't care if you get in trouble. But once he got in the Army and went through basic training, I think it would be great for kids to go through some part of basic training to teach them, hey, this is how you need to act and straighten yourself up. I mean, once he went into basic training, he turned into a whole new man. I was like, oh my God, thank you, God, for taking care of my kid, because there was things I could not do to help that child until he went to basic training.
Eileen, my brother went to basic training before he got medically discharged. He was the same person, even worse, narcissistically. Very, like, I will do it my way type of situation, and it just made it worse. My sister Mia, though, called a little cult leader. She was playing soccer last year, and she's like, guys, let's throw ants at the other team. And she'll have them all pick up ants and throw them at them. So I've had just my siblings, myself, I've have every different type of personality I'm pretty sure you can get. I've always been the smart but dumb kid. Luke's the like had a peen race type of kid and everything else. I have every personality in my household.
Yeah, you always hear the baby boomer generation always like, these people these days, back in my day, we got whipped in school and all this, right?
My mom made me pick out my own switch, me and my brother. And here's the thing, my youngest siblings, me and Bradson's the only ones technically adults, and my mom doesn't punish them half as hard as she did us. So I told her, I was like, you got it lucky. I took the brunt of the force for you.
I feel you on that. I'm one of 5. I'm 32. My brother's 17. And we're all in the mix. Like, I got like a 21, a 23-year-old sister, and then I got a brother that's close to my age at 30. And we got every personality imaginable, but it's, my mom even says, she says, raising these kids now is different than raising you and your brother. But she does not discipline them like she disciplined me and my brother. We had to catch switches, got whooped with mining belts, or got whooped with flip-flops. Anything she'd get her hand on, we got whooped on, and all she does is yell at these kids.
Wow, Jessica, you remind me of myself. My dad and mom had 8 of us, and they were really strict and tough on us. That's why I guess I'm the type that's a perfectionist a little bit. When it comes to starting something, I do not stop until I finish and overthink about it, and I try to do the best I can. They raised me that way, and I've tried to raise my kids that way, but I think my kids has turned out pretty good. I'm tough on them and stuff, and I do not tolerate drugs or alcohol and stuff like that there. But I mean, my son that was the wild child that ended up in the army and straightened himself out, he wasn't a mean kid. He was just a little bit of a daredevil and fearless. He wasn't like crazy or anything like that there. It's just, if you dared him to do something, that crazy kid would try to do it. I mean, I've dealt with fractures and broken bones and stuff with that kid, and oh my God, he's been through stitches and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, kid, you're my only worrying kid that makes me worry my heart to death. And I said, you scare me. And when he got in the army, yeah, he does like guns. He collects them now and all this and that. And I'm like, wow, you really do belong in the army. You loved outdoors all your life, and you loved doing little crazy things and stuff. And I said, you are a good fit for the army. I begged him not to go, everybody. I'm not kidding. I didn't want him in the army. I didn't feel like, this world has gotten so horrible. I was like, it's just crazy. And I was like, I didn't really want him to go in the army at first and stuff, but he's a really great fit for the army, and he would protect the United States, I really feel, but he's so fearless, he'd run into danger before he'd run away from it.
I was always my mom's fearful child. I was never afraid of the dark or anything. Now, as I got older, I kind of mellowed out. I blame my bipolar meds on that, though. But my sister Everly's just like me when I was little. And I'm telling you, she makes me really question if I ever want kids in my life. She's 2. And I'm telling you, that girl can outrun me. She can outrun anyone in my house. I'm like, that's not hard, but still a lot. And then she ran outside one day. I was like upstairs. No one knew she went downstairs, and outside I catch her, and she darts for the road. It's like, I had a flashback when I darted towards the road. My mom grabbed me by my ponytail. I was like, I'm going to about beat her. And I didn't really beat her, but I was like, you make me understand why my mom did the things that she did with me.
Before we wrap it up, we got another slide from Sonny, but I do want to ask you guys, what do you think about the soundtrack, especially all the Beethoven music in the film?
I guess I like the music and stuff. I just didn't like the movie as well.
I liked how there's a lot of classical music, especially since we don't have that nowadays.
I'd say the use of Beethoven definitely added to like the bizarreness of the film pretty well.
Right. The contrast there, Matt, right? The beautiful music of Beethoven used with these grotesque violent images and stuff. That's what makes him sick, right? Because he does appreciate the beauty of Beethoven's music. So to pair it with all these violent images and stuff, that's what really sets him over the edge.
I agree too. That's what I thought. Like you had the music and, like some of these beautiful, well-known pieces that you're used to, but it was kind of paired with, all this violent or this sexual content or, complete, like you said, contrast of what you would normally think of when you hear those types of songs being played.
Have any of you guys in here taken music appreciation, studied Beethoven's music?
I took music appreciation, and then also my youngest son, he really enjoys music, and he's done his music teacher in grade school. He really likes her, and he's followed like a lot of the different things. I can't think of I think Quaver is the name of it, and they have like these little things set up where they can go on and they can click on all kinds of different facts, and they make it just kind of fun for the kids to kind of want to go through like and listen to different music. And I've learned a lot like from both of those, because there was some songs like that were familiar to me that I had heard before, but I didn't know the name of them, or I didn't know who played them until I was listening with that or took the music class.
Yeah, music is a subject I'm pretty weak on, like all the classical music and stuff. I like that kind of stuff, but I'm very weak on that subject. I'm not as knowledgeable on it as I would like. So yeah, go to your next slide now, Sonny. Close us out.
Okay, here's some random facts. This movie was not allowed to be seen in Britain until 1978, in South America until 1984, in Ireland it was banned until the 2000s, and in Singapore it didn't get to be watched until 2011. And it was a big money maker. The cost of it was $1.3 million, but it made over $114 million worldwide. It was also the most popular movie in France in 1972. And Alex and his Droogs appeared in Space Jam: A New Legacy.
That's crazy.
And the milk that they drank, I don't know if this is true, but I read that it had to be replaced every hour because of the heat from like the settings, the set lights, and like just everything. And then these were just some pictures. My favorite one's the next one because it's a meme from The Simpsons. They had him in there too. The Simpsons made an episode that did something about the Clockwork Orange. And then that was it. Thank you.
Very good, Sonny. The Space Jam thing's kind of funny. Like, talk about just a random thing to throw into that. The new one, I guess, that came out last year.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that, but I didn't know anything about the movie, of course. So like I didn't bat an eye at it, but now that's hilarious that they threw them in the background.
Into like a kid's movie.
Yeah.
There's going to be some 8-year-old look this movie up on HBO Max now. So good job, Warner Brothers.
Oh my God, I need to like somehow block this so my 12-year-old doesn't find it.
Set your parental settings on your HBO Max there, Jessica.
I'm just hoping my grandma doesn't see that I watched it. She knows what this movie is. So she told me, you better not watch that. So I'm the supporter of the HBO Max, where my aunts, my uncles, my grandma, and my mom and dad, and they're all like, "You better not be watching those dirty movies." So I'm like, it's there.
Tell her to come for me if she's got a problem with it. It's my fault.
No, I'm just gonna blame it on my brother.
My youngest was coming to tell me goodnight because I had my door in my bedroom pushed together, and he came through. I could hear him coming down the hallway, and he was like, "Mom," and it was like right at a nude scene, and I was like, "Wait!" And I hurried and got up and went out there where he was at.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, this movie is hard to watch. Like I had difficulty watching it, but I think it's a valuable movie. I mean, I think we had a pretty rich conversation today. So it's a valuable movie, even if it's not one we would watch for fun value.
My boyfriend, he watched it with me, and I'm telling you, he hated it. He was like, "Oh my God, are you serious?"
So the good news is our next film is Starman, directed by a horror director, John Carpenter. But Starman is a sci-fi movie, but it's like a very romantic movie. So you could even call it a chick flick, if you will. So
I wanted to give everybody an update on something. 16 Candles will be on the 31st on, oh crap. I went to scan it through my TiVo box where I do it through Suddenlink, and it's coming on at 8 o'clock on the 31st. I'm trying to think what channel it was. Oh my God, I can't even think. I can't even find it right now on my movies, so I'm sorry. It's on my to-do list.
probably AMC or something.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. So if y'all need to get that movie, it'll be on that date.
Yeah, I don't. As far as their movie for Thursday, Starman, I'm not sure what service that's on or if it's on any.
It is completely free on Tubi. If you download Tubi, it's like it's got a bunch of different shows and movies for free with ads.
Is that like an app you can download, Matt, on your
It's
phone?
an app. Yeah, you can get it on your phone. I don't know if you have a smart TV, you might be. I'm pretty sure you can get it there too.
It's on Roku.
But yeah, it's free.
It's on Roku, you said, Jessica?
Yeah, the Tubi app is on Roku.
Oh, Tubi. So, yeah,
Tubi.
I'm very excited to teach this one. It's a very heartwarming sort of movie, so it'll be a nice contrast after today. So, and I'll try to get you discussion questions up. I didn't post any today because I was last minute watching the film. Like I said, I've been playing catch up this week on my
That's
whole
okay.
life.
On this movie, please do not give us questions on the orange. Not this movie. We just watched. I don't want to do it.
My fault too, because I was a little late coming in with the questions. That was all wrong.
No, that's all right, Sonny. Like I said, I was late rewatching. I rewatched it earlier today. So yeah. So Starman, a much more it's a very wholesome movie after this. So I'm balancing it out for you guys. So well, until Thursday then, guys, take care and we'll see you next time.
I also have a few questions.
Okay.
Could you tell me my grade that I have in your class?
I'm working on it, Sonny. Like I said, I'm pretty behind.